I thought it would be a good thing to start out for people that I guess that don't aren't familiar with you guys, to maybe talk a little bit about the Wolf Connection podcast and how you guys first started doing that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steven. If you want to start, I'll chime in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, with the podcast specifically, I think it kind of was on. It kind of started at the onset of the pandemic, really, because we were experiencing a little less traffic at the sanctuary, actually on site, and a lot of the experience that Wolf Connection offers is an on site experience, really. But everyone kind of had to adjust during the pandemic. I'm sure in every single industry and in any job title you had to figure out some other way to sort of adapt. And the theme was, how do we bring what happens at Wolf Connection with our programmatic elements and the folks we serve on site? How do we sort of bring what happens there to people without them having to physically be at the sanctuary? Because that was getting increasingly harder to accomplish. So Wolf Connection came up with a couple ideas, but John and I, being sort of media focused, it's just kind of the natural next thing was start a podcast. I mean, John's done radio before. I make music for a living. So it just seemed like the next logical step. And it's certainly been, at first it was just supposed to be about, not about, but at first we were just going to interview Wolf Connection staff and kind of get their stories and get visitors' stories who came to the ranch, and then it just became a whole other thing. So that's the origin story as far as I'm concerned. But maybe John has additions there. But
I mean, I can go off of that, and Steven's right. We really just in the very early stages of it were looking, like you said, to keep getting the messaging out and getting our mission out as to what we do. And a lot of that was centrally focused, as he stated, on the staff, the volunteers who really put a lot of incredible time and effort into their work with the wolves, wolf dogs, and the groups that would come on site. But as we started making a list of the people that we actually wanted to talk to outside of it, the list was huge to begin with. So we probably had roughly 50 names. And as we were going down these names, the list gets shorter, obviously, as you know, and you're thinking, okay, what's the next step? How do we get to the next 50, the next 20, the next 10 even, of who was going to do it? And to our credit, and we don't typically pat ourselves on the back, and I'm not doing it now, but we have been so incredibly fortunate and lucky for not only to get the guests that we've had on 200 episodes plus now, but those guests.
Congratulations, by the way, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just like being able for those people to then refer us to other folks, and then those folks referring us to other folks. And it really was this snowball effect that maybe in our wildest fantasies we probably saw coming true. But when you're in the throes of it, as you know, as you're just starting, right, Brianna, it's like, like, how do you make the next connection happen? No pun intended. But it's really been a beautiful journey for us to be able to focus and bring a focus that I can speak for myself personally, that I think the sanctuary was not necessarily missing, but it was certainly lacking, in that we're talking to folks in the wild wolf space and in the biodiversity space and the environmental space and conservation space. And this is something that while you're on site, you get the full picture. When you're outside of this realm in California, you may not see this is kind of what's happening all over. And so really we've been able to encompass that in such a beautiful fashion. And we just have been welcomed into this world with open arms and people willing to speak with us very candidly. And that's really been just the other fortunate end of this, is that we are able to have these long form conversations with people who know a hell of a lot more than we do. And we're always looking for that next educational, informational piece that allows us to then have the correct information to give to our listening audience, our viewing audience, and also the people that come through the sanctuary doors. So
Yeah.
it's a twofold process.
And the most unexpected thing, like you said, is the educational piece. I mean, at first it was just to be about individuals' stories, which obviously we do that as well. But now I see it. I mean, the biggest privilege for me, working with John on this, is that we get to kind of create a platform for people who are working their butts off to research things. We get to create kind of a platform for them to just like get excited about what they do and share it with people who otherwise probably would never come across their work.
Yeah, absolutely. It truly is the wolf connection, right? Connecting people who love wolves, who care about wolves. And, it's a really great time right now for people that are so interested. I mean, like, I don't have like a scientific background or anything like that, but just me personally listening to some of your podcasts, I find them so interesting. And it's like a lot of information that you get. And you guys
Yeah.
have such a cool array of people that come on, like
Yeah.
scientists, researchers, um so many different
Yeah.
people that are in the wolf space, the science space, the learning space, and I think it's just a very cool way for people to learn more about wolves, and then also to gain information, especially with things like policies, or even just like the scientific background on why some things are the way they are, is
Right.
really incredible too.
Yeah, and really, it's just I think the wolf conversation. Obviously, we started working with wolves, you
Right.
know, in person. So, well,
Yeah.
wolves and wolf dogs, and in a totally different arena than the wild wolf space. So we kind of that's kind of a natural trajectory to use, not use, but to take advantage of the fact that it's such an important topic right now. To and of course, what we do is about wolves in the end. But really it's about people, and it's about the complexities of conservation, and it's about just the variety of folks out there, and their perspectives. So we appreciate the wolf, and we appreciate the topic of wolf as a vehicle for just important conversations to be had.
And it's really driven to piggyback off what Stephen just said, to really explore the vastness of this topic. And so
Yeah.
wolves is truly the driving force
Yeah.
behind a lot of policy and a lot of very emotional, um, social, topics. And there's a lot of mirroring, I think, that we see from working with wolves and wolf dogs for 8+ years. Stephen, the same in the sanctuary. There's a lot of lessons that you can learn from this specific species, and understanding where we as a species come from and how we have evolved in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of the planet and the ecosystem and things of that sort. But what's really engaging for us is to learn that there are so many different facets to this